A rural girl wants to get married. She doesn't ask for a dowry, she doesn't ask for a house, yet she still scares off countless young men who come to propose. So, what's really going on? Some might assume, oh, it must be because she's very ugly, that's why everyone runs away. But actually, it's nothing like that. The girl's name is Chen Hong, and she's quite cute, to be honest. The reason she can't get married has nothing to do with her looks, it's because of the very special dowry she brings with her.
因为想过以后结婚什么的，肯定得带着我爸爸，就什么也不要，只要带着我爸。
When the elderly in a family fall ill, it's the children's responsibility to take care of them. Even more so in the case of Chen Hong, the only daughter of the Chen family. For her, caring for her father, who has difficulty walking, is not just an obligation but a duty she believes she must carry without question. There's no reason to abandon him, she would always say. But every time she mentioned her request, to take her father with her after getting married, the young men who came to propose would make excuses and disappear. In the eyes of others, had this display of filial piety become a burden? In truth, their concerns had some basis. Chen Hong's father is adoptive and shares no blood relation with her, yet she treats him with even more affection than she would a biological father. She explains, he raised me alone, with so much effort. So I need to take care of him. There's no reason to leave him. Old Chen also understands that it isn't tradition for a daughter to bring her father along after marriage, but he can't convince her to give up on the idea. For over 20 years, he lived with a constant fear. What if, on the day she married, she left him behind? After all, Chen Hong is only an adopted daughter, and he feared that one day he would end up completely alone. No children, no siblings, no one. Only when he heard his daughter's promise did he finally feel some relief. 22 years earlier, old Chen was just over 40. He had suffered from polio since childhood, and his legs didn't function well. No woman was willing to marry him, and he spent his life without a wife or children. Until one day, his mother told him, "There's a woman at the entrance of the village who gave birth to a baby. She doesn't want the child. Why don't you take her? Then someone will care for you in the future." Old Chen went there and found a newborn girl. He looked at her with immediate affection, and unable to resist, gently touched her face. That single touch made the baby burst into tears. She cried for 3 days and 3 nights, without eating a single bite. Old Chen was terrified, but thankfully, after the 3rd day, she finally accepted food. He sighed in relief and named the girl Chen Hong. But that small family, he, his elderly mother, and the child, lived in extreme poverty. With his bad legs, he couldn't work. In winter, the girl had only 2 pairs of cotton pants to keep warm, sometimes not even that, and she would cry from the cold. Life was harsh, very harsh, but even so, the 3 of them found moments of happiness and lived 10 years laughing despite the misery. When Chen Hong was 12, her grandmother passed away suddenly, and old Chen was devastated. From that moment on, only father and daughter remained, completely dependent on one another. What would their future look like? The girl learned to care for her father. Since his legs couldn't be exposed to cold, she insisted that he stay home on damp days and did everything for him. Embarrassed, he would say, "You're so young, I never taught you these things. I don't want you to be disgusted with me." She would reply, "I would never be disgusted with you." Even so, there were those who meddled. Some spiteful neighbors told Chen Hong she was a found child and that old Chen wasn't her real father. The news shattered her heart. She went home and asked directly, "If there's something you need to tell me now. Am I really your daughter?" She even knelt down, saying, "I just want to know the truth. No matter what it is, I will never leave you." Old Chen was torn apart, but he told her everything, and even said she could leave if she wanted. But to his surprise, she didn't cry, didn't scream, and didn't leave. She simply made a silent decision to find her biological parents. With her adoptive father's help, she really did find them. Seeing the extreme poverty they lived in, she felt relieved, even forgiving them for abandoning her. But after reconnecting with them, she returned to old Chen, because in her heart, the gratitude toward the one who raises is greater than the gratitude toward the one who gives birth. She knew how much old Chen had sacrificed to raise her. From then on, she cared for him with even more devotion. The neighbors saw everything and constantly praised her. She takes off his socks in winter, washes his feet. This girl is truly good. Time passed, and at 17, after finishing middle school, Chen Hong decided to stop studying. The family's financial situation was difficult, and she wanted to earn money to help her father. So she left school and went to find work in the county, more than 10 kilometers away. No matter the weather, wind, rain, early morning or late evening, every day at noon, she insisted on returning home to cook lunch. After eating, she would go back to work. That round trip alone took over an hour, all to ensure her adoptive father had a hot meal. The next year, she was still too young to help with heavy tasks, so the entire burden fell on her. Even when it rained, she walked back, returning in the dark and tired, just to make sure her father had the basics. As Chen Hong grew older, old Chen didn't want to see her spending her life alone. So he thought of finding her a husband. But when she heard that, Chen Hong simply shook her head and said, "I'm not getting married in this lifetime. I will take care of you until the end." Old Chen also didn't want to be a burden. They discussed and argued many times, but neither managed to convince the other. Finally, Chen Hong suggested, "Then let's recruit a son-in-law. If he's willing to take you with me, I'll marry him." But the result was a complete failure. No one accepted those conditions. After that, they stopped talking about the matter. Until one day, Chen Hong's fate appeared unexpectedly. "That day I was in a bad mood," she said. "I logged into QQ and asked him, 'When are you going to marry me?' And that's how we started talking." They first got to know each other through their phones, chatting every day. Later, they began meeting in person, sometimes going out to eat together. During that time, Meng Feixiang, the young man, confessed his feelings for her several times. But Chen Hong hesitated, afraid he wouldn't accept her family situation, so she didn't respond right away. Then Chen Hong received a phone call. Her father had suffered a sudden heart attack and was in critical condition. The doctor even advised them to prepare for the worst. The young woman was desperate, not knowing what to do. The only person she thought of was Meng Feixiang. She called him crying, and he immediately took a taxi and rushed to the hospital. He cared for old Chen for 7 straight days, without disgust, without fear of hard work, doing whatever was necessary until the old man finally recovered. This gesture deeply moved both Chen Hong and her father. So she decided to tell the whole truth, her family situation, the difficulties, and the condition that she would need to take her father with her after marriage. Meng Feixiang accepted without hesitation. He thought it would be simple, but Chen Hong was worried about how his family would react. And she was right. When Meng Feixiang told his family about the marriage and about bringing her adoptive father along, everyone opposed it immediately. One of his sisters-in-law even said, "If you marry her, you'll have to care for that old man for the rest of his life. Do we think that's fair?" But Meng Feixiang truly loved Chen Hong. He argued with his family, saying, "Caring for the elderly is a duty, and Chen Hong is a good, polite, devoted girl. If she comes into our family, she'll treat you all well too." Over time, the family agreed to meet Chen Hong. At the first meeting, they liked her so much that they quickly approved the marriage. On the wedding day, the two young people walked with old Chen, arm in arm, toward the Meng family's home, all smiling with happiness. After the marriage, old Chen lived very well in the Meng household. Chen Hong soon gave birth to a son, and the entire family prospered even more, living better and better days. It's exactly like the saying goes, good people always receive good in return. And we believe their future will only grow brighter and happier.
At first glance, Chen Hong's story seems like one of those heartwarming tales. The dutiful daughter, the adoptive father who did the impossible, the young man who stands up to his own family, the full package of goodness rewarded. But when you look deeper, you realize there's something almost no one talks about, especially on Chinese platforms, where stories like this appear all the time. And what I'm about to say may sound arrogant, harsh, or even heartless to some, but it needs to be said. There's a very thin line between gratitude and emotional imprisonment. Yes, old Chen did a good deed by adopting a baby no one wanted, especially while living in poverty and with physical limitations. That is admirable. But we can't ignore the fact that, in the end, this good deed tied the girl to a lifelong responsibility, and that's sad. Children, biological or adopted, are raised for the world, not to become emotional crutches or retirement plans. This is not about ingratitude, it's about freedom. Yet in many rural parts of China, this is still common. Extremely poor people adopt children not out of pure altruism, but because they need someone to take care of them in old age. It's an unwritten, almost cultural system that mixes love with necessity and necessity with obligation, and in all of this, the one who loses autonomy is always the youngest. And that's exactly why Chen Hong's story is uncomfortable, precisely because it's beautiful. Because despite the enormous weight placed on her, she chose to stay. She chose to care. She chose to pay a price that, honestly, no one should ever be expected to pay. And the most ironic part is that the very condition seen as a flaw by potential suitors was actually proof of her character. She wasn't difficult to marry. It was society that couldn't handle real responsibility. Old Chen, on the other hand, was also a victim of the system. He wasn't some calculating manipulator raising a child to be his caretaker. He was just a poor, disabled man who believed a child might give his life some meaning. He gave what he could with the little he had. But the truth is that, intentionally or not, he also contributed to a cycle where a child's life becomes shaped entirely by an adult's fear of being abandoned. And then comes Meng Faishang, who almost feels like a fictional character because he's so rare. He did what no one else was willing to do. He stayed. He saw a massive problem and chose to love the person anyway. His gesture at the hospital caring for old Chen for 7 days showed that he understands something most people prefer to ignore. Love isn't about convenience, it's about decision. Even so, we can't overlook the fact that he stepped into a situation where a 17-year-old girl was already carrying a burden she should never have carried alone. What's most curious is how everything resolves almost poetically. The young man's family, who initially rejected the idea, ends up charmed by Chen Hong. The wedding happens, old Chen is welcomed, a child is born, and life prospers. It almost feels like a Chinese New Year commercial on CCTV. But beyond the happy ending, an uncomfortable question remains. How many stories like this don't end well? How many adopted children raised under this model spend their entire lives carrying weights they should never have had to bear? And that's exactly why this story deserves to be looked at with honesty. It's beautiful, but beautiful despite the system, not because of it. It's moving, but because 3 people broke the cycle, not because the cycle is fair. And honestly, in a world where so many people change relationships like they change phones, seeing someone stay is almost revolutionary. But revolution should not come from obligation, it should come from choice. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. See you in the next one.